What's up? It's Josh Swift. So I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about some other stuff about the story of James, right? Because I know the story of James pretty good, man. And people don't tell James' side, but I'm not going to get into all that. But I don't even know if I'm going to remake the whole video because everybody's already heard the story of James and everybody knows what the real story is, James and Betty. But I just want to say something else about the story of James and Betty, right? So James is on Tumblr, right? Messaging Betty for like 3 years, man. Like 6 times a day, just talking, like, because he knows that Betty's trying to get a hold of him because the KFM 105.3 radio station caller and all. There's a bunch of other stuff that Betty did, dude. Like, and then he went and looked up, like, there was this map of where the radio station was, and then there was this place called Taylor's House over here on this right side, but it was superimposed over the KFM 105.3 radio station. That's an Easter egg, baby. That's the only reason James did what he did. But anyway, so James is listening to that, right? He's messenger, and then he comes to Vegas, and then Betty's making out with Joe Alwyn on TMZ right after he gets here, right? She put it on TMZ, man. Betty don't do that. And so James was like, Betty's trying to send James a message, but James just going about his life. And then James realizes that Betty is desperately wants to talk to him, right? So James is like, okay, he gets a couple of messages from some people that he knows, and he goes back on Tumblr. Then he starts messaging Betty again, right? You know what Betty does after 3 years? Because James was like, well, Betty, like, I don't got a lot of Tumblr followers, so, like, she's either, like, listening to me or she's not listening to me. So, either way, man, I don't know, but, like, I just messaged Betty. I didn't really put up any posts or anything. Every once in a while I'll put up a post, but I didn't have no followers on Tumblr. Right, I was just there to message Betty. I'm like, she's either listening or she isn't listening. But this is how James knows, man. Because then he comes back to Las Vegas. And you know what happens? Man? James, he's like, well, I guess Betty wants to talk to me again. So James goes back on Tumblr, right? And he goes and he starts messaging Betty again. After the second message, you know what Betty does? She blocks him on Tumblr. Blocks his messages. Betty's been listening to James for like 3 years, right? There's no mistake about that because as soon as James comes back and she's making out with Joe Alwyn on TMZ, and then James is like, all right, Betty's must trying to make me jealous, and then like some other things, and then James is like, okay, I'll go back to Tumblr and message her because apparently she wants to talk to me. Betty blocks James after 2 messages. Blocks him. So Betty. It's not all James' fault. That's all I'm saying, man.